Okay, so here is another girl that we're going to extract, and you'll notice that she has darker hair. So you're going to see that since I did not brighten the background, I set my lights so it lit them. I had my ambient down dark. I wanted a good contrast in there. So in this case, it's going to be a little bit more difficult up here around the top of her head and around the sides, because this brown hair against this darker backdrop is going to be a little more difficult. So there's a couple ways to approach that. One of the ways could be to come in here and do a levels adjustment just temporarily, or a curves adjustment. I like the curves. And come in and just kind of brighten it up a little bit and take the darker. That's not going to work. So what you can do is that gives us more contrast at the top of her head here, and basically all that's going to do is enhance our ability to extract her. Everything else here looks really good as far as contrasting to the back. So that's going to be the hardest part, and it's just there's not really any flyaways up there, so it's going to be fairly simple as far as the rest of the extraction is. A little bit of flyaway under back in her neck here behind the bat, but we'll see how that works out. And one of the things you can do that to help extract is to use channels. So we're going to use channels here, and I'm not sure how it's going to work with not having the contrast. So let's see. Let's just turn everything off here. We'll turn off and start with the blue channel. Now what you're looking for here is the channel that gives you the most contrast. So we're actually looking for white against dark. So this is going to be kind of counterintuitive with the top of her head up here, but hopefully with that curves adjustment over here in the layers, it's going to help make that pop out a lot better. It's going to help us out when we get back over there. So we have the blue channel. The blue channel is not too bad. We're looking at how she contrasts against the background. Let's try the green channel. Green channel may be actually a little bit better. They're not the darks are not as dark as they are in the blue channel, but the lights are a little bit lighter. Let's see about the red channel. Turn this off. The red channel is not too bad. It gives us these whites really good against that background. So I'm going to go with the red channel, and we're going to make a duplicate by doing a right click and click on the duplicate channel. I'm just going to say red copy, just accept that. We're going to turn that on, turn the red channel off, and now we have a duplicate. Excuse me. So what you need to do is make the darks darker and the lights lighter so that you can get a very good extraction around the edges. Now it looks really good as it is, but we're going to try to make the darks a little darker, and we may have a little trouble up here with that, but let's just do a Command L to bring up our levels. This is the regular levels. It's not an adjustment, levels adjustment, but you can't do adjustment layers on a channel, so we have to use the regular levels. So I'm going to push the blacks over a little bit to make them a little darker, and you can see we're beginning to lose her hair up here a little bit, so I don't want to go too dark with that. Maybe even, let's see, let's try the midtones, bringing the midtones back. Well, that helps with the hair quite a bit, but it also takes away from us around here. So let's try the whites, make the whites whiter, and that's helping quite a bit too. So what's going to happen is we're going to create a selection with this. There we go. We want something that's going to give us some separation here, and we're going to create a selection with this, and then we're going to have to work on that selection a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just select OK on this, and then we're going to do a Command or Control click, and that's going to give us a selection. Now notice it's not selecting this up here. It only selects the whites, so it's not selecting her hair up here. So we're going to have to do some of that on our own. But what we have here now is a selection, really nice selection around the rest of her. And what we're going to do is take this over into layers, and we're going to do a selection right here. And you can see that it selected pretty well, but it missed some of her hair up here, and it missed some other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here first, and I'm going to fill in what I know we need, and then we're going to work on the top of her head. Okay, so this other is going to turn out really well. I'm going to turn this off for a moment just to see what it looks like. Yeah, that's going to help a little bit with it turned off actually. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click Option or Alt on a PC, and that's going to give me my my channel back. It's going to show me everything that's selected from a masking perspective. So we're going to come in now and I'm going to paint with black all these places that I know, or excuse me, paint with white all these places that I know I want to keep. So I know I want to keep all this on her face, even this black part right here, because this is shadow inside her hair. So we're going to come in here and I'm just going to begin to paint. Sorry, that's black. I'm going to begin to paint pure white, and I just want to get out on the edges here so that I can leave those edges to be feathered a little bit and have those little bit of strands of hair in there. But I know I'm going to want this part of her hair up here, and I've got this brush feathered just a little bit, and I'm just going to come in here and paint this in around the edges of this hair. There we go. And I'm going to leave some of this to be feathered so it's not such a hard edge, and especially these strands right here. We're going to just kind of get it like this. I'm going to get this right here. I'm going to leave those strands there because I like the way they're working. Then I want all of this. So now I'm going to make my brush big, and we're going to come in here and I want to select all of this right here. Okay, like this, because I want to get all of her here. See, as it turned out, I really didn't need that curves adjustment. I thought I might need it just to help separate, and the way I used to do it, that was very helpful. But doing it this way now, I'm going to leave this kind of like it is. Well, actually I'm not. I'm going to go ahead and take it, except for those edges right there. I'm going to leave that, and we're going to come in here and get this like this. Okay, so that's got, now I'll come up here and I'll get Easton, make this real big, and I'll do it in one swipe. So I do Shift, get Easton real good, then I can come a little bit smaller in here, actually a lot smaller right there. We're going to do the same thing, click, I'm going to come down here with the Shift, just missed it a little bit, so we're going to come back, and that got it pretty good there. We're going to come here and just kind of round that out like that. There we go, not too bad, a little bit right here. There we go, and that gets the bat real good. We're going to come down here. I'm going to make sure I get her hands. There we go. Now I like to rotate because I don't do real good up and down to get any details, so I'm going to rotate it around here. I do better kind of at an angle like this. I'm going to go back to our brush, and I'm going to come in here, and we're just going to kind of get, I'm going to kind of leave it a little feathered on the edges there, like that. Maybe a little bit better. And we'll know more if I need to get more of that as, oops, that was an accident, as we get back to the image and what we want. So I'm going to get all of this. I'm going to come back in here and get that. And I'm just painting that in. So now we're down here. I know I want all of her hair here because it's against her body. There's no background there. We have her hair here. I think I'm going to go out like this and get this hair. Now that hair there, I'm going to kind of leave it, which means it's going to be feathered. It's going to be a little kind of faded. We'll see if I want to get some of it back, and we'll come back and take a look at it. But I'm going to get all of this, get these edges, take care of this. So the good thing about this is that it gets the edges really well, which is the important part, and then you have to come back in though, especially if there's anything like this that you have to get yourself, because it's just looking for black and white differences, and you're going to have a lot of black that you have to wipe away from the edges here so that it brings it back, or sorry, not from the edges, but from the main subject here, so it brings back all of that. So back, we're going to rotate again, back to here, and then back to my brush. And I think I messed up there because, yeah, that's between her leg and her shoe there, so I want to keep that space there. Come down here, bring all this back. Did pretty good on the shoelace there. Excuse me. We're going to get this right here, and then we'll come down here and take care of all of this. And once you've done this a few times, it becomes a little bit second nature what you need to do, and you can just decide, do I like this better than select and mask, or do I want to do a different way? There's lots of different methods around this. Now you've got all of this grass here too, and all the background and all that stuff that you need to make even darker. So this becomes a little bit of an issue as well. So what we have to do now is come in here and expand our brush and paint black and get rid of all this other stuff. And I'm not going to get close to her, try not to get close to her, because that's going to be more intricate, but I want to get rid of everything else in here. And there's another way to do this too. What you can do is do select subject at this point, which is probably the better way. So you can come back now and do option or alt click, and it brings it back. You can see there's some little bit of black in here, but what I can do is click back on this and say select subject, and it's going to select her again. Now notice that it didn't get part of the parts that we put back in here. So what we're going to use this for is to protect us from wiping off any of the bat or anything like that. So what I need to do here though is, it did not select the bat, so I'm going to go to select object, press shift. We're going to try to select the bat here and that little bit of hair, see if it selects it, and it did. So that's going to be real helpful. So it did not select part of her in here, I think. Yeah, it didn't select all of her hair, so we do a shift and try to get that to be selected just for grins. Okay, so now I'm pretty much protected on that, so I can come back over here and I can have my black brush again and make it a little smaller, and we're going to go back to this. Oops. Yeah, so I can see the black. Oops. Oh, I need to do a Command Shift I because I have her selected rather than the background, and it's the background that I want to get rid of. So we're going to come in here, and even though I have that as a selection, I don't want to get closer, especially up here around the hair, because it's already, I mean, I have those feathers or flyaways, I mean, that are selected. Now see, I made the mistake there of knocking off part of her I guess that's part of a bracelet, leather bracelet that she has, and I didn't want to do that, so I'm gonna have to come back and add that back in. But it just kind of helps protect, so I can get rid of most of this stuff here that we don't want. Okay, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get rid of all this too. This seems like a longer process, and the reason that it's a little bit longer, I think, is just because she has more brown hair, so that we were not able to get the knockout that we wanted with the channels. But channels is another great way, and I think it actually does better on the hair sometimes than select and mask does. So let's see, there's some right here. Make sure I get that. And then we'll come down here and get the grass, and I need to get that piece of tape, so it's going to be on its own. And notice it's not selected right there, so I want to make sure I don't get up in there. And make sure, and it doesn't have to be perfect like I said, like Joel says. So you just come in here and continue to come around, and you think, well, it takes only 5 minutes to select something, to knock something out. Well, you can do that, but if you really want it to look good and there's not really good contrast, then it does take a little bit of time sometime. Okay, let's see if we got everything we want. So I'm going to come back in here and we're going to try to work on this a little bit. You'll notice, oh, I didn't get this up here. So I'm going to come in here and do kind of the same thing. Okay, and then we're going to come in here. I'm going to come in and I'm going to add this back right quick before I forget. Just paint with white to bring it back. And I didn't do a great job there. I'm going to rotate it a little bit. And we're going to try again. See if I can have a little bit more of a steady hand. And you can see that I'm painting back at 100%. It doesn't look like it was at 100% when I initially did it. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad. Okay, so now we're going to come in here, especially since it's going to be so small, and when we get it against the background, people are not going to notice that it isn't perfect. And that's what Joel is meaning by, and you don't have to be perfect. So I probably take a lot more time than I really should on a lot of this. This one has already taken probably twice as long as the last one. And I'm gonna, whoops, sorry about that. That was supposed to go back in history here. There we go. That was supposed to be a rotate tool, and I hit the R and somehow it went to text. So we're going to rotate here, bring it back up here, go back to my brush, a little bit smaller, try to get this little area in here. And we may have to feather this again because it looks like I'm taking away some of the feather. And then you have this area in here. I'm just going to go ahead and take those little pieces of hair out of there. And I'm going to kind of leave it with this background. I could come in here at say 10% and whoops. Okay, not sure what I did there, but we're going to go back to the brush tool. I'm going to go back. It looks like I'm in the quick mask mode for some reason. Nope. Okay. Well, I need to go back over here and do this again. How come it's not? There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Wasn't sure where I went. I'm on the mixer brush too, so something kind of went wonk over there. But we're going to go at 10%, and I'm just going to come in here and just kind of take out just a little bit of that. And you'll notice it's going to take out the strands too, but it'll come in and take out some of that background, and those strands are not going to be as noticeable. So you come in here and just kind of do something like this. So that one's a little more touchy to do. So I think that's got it. Let me look at down here at the feet. I think we're good. Oh yeah, I wanted to get rid of this. So we're going to turn off the selection by doing a command or control D for deselect. And I'm just going to erase this. Oops, I have to go to 100% again and come down here like this. And that gets rid of that little thing and these little things here that are sticking up here as part of the background. Okay. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. Go around the edges here and see if there's anything I may have missed. Got some more stuff here. Let's just go the 10% route again. And right here where these strands are, get some of that out. And we're going to come back down here, and I'm going to go back to 100%. We're going to come in here and get this right quick. It gets a little bit of the edges there too, but that's not that big a deal. There we go. Alright, so I think that's pretty good. So we're going to do R to rotate again back to here, and we're going to come in and we're going to see what it looks like. Alt or Option, click, and now we have her here. And now if we look at her, we can come in here pretty close and you can see, I think that's part of the bat there, so I'm not worried about that. She's got look like a little bit of a notch out of her hand there, so I'm going to rotate her a little bit. Now we're going to paint that back in. We're on the mask. I'm just going to do a brush, and we're going to go to white. And I'm just going to paint that back in right there. Get her hand back there where it looks normal. And then we'll rotate her back 100%. And that looks good. So I'm just going around and making sure everything looks good. And I don't see anything that looks bad. Yeah, shoes, everything looks good. So I think, all in all, I think this is a really good extraction. So that is another way of doing it with channels. And in this case, it was a little bit longer, a little bit more difficult. You'd hope that these would take only about 5 to 10 minutes. This one probably took about 20 minutes, just guessing. But anyway, that's another option for you to do an extraction.